Hi and welcome to the channel. Now I usually do hi-fi and all that kind of stuff, music kind of stuff, so and I do a few other bits and pieces where I go completely off topic, but this one kind of ties in a little bit because I've done a couple of videos about cruising, going on the cruise ship, etc. I've done a couple of videos in the past, two Cunard ones, but I've been on Ambassador a couple of times. This is the second time I've been on Ambassador, and I went on this, back to the 80s. So I thought, you know, it's to do with music. I might as well give my opinion because I've seen some other videos online and I kind of agree with some of them and don't agree with the others kind of thing, all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd put another one out there, especially if someone is thinking about doing this particular cruise back to the 80s. They do one back to the 70s as well. Haven't been on that one, so I can't comment, but I think it's going to be a bit like this one. So just to kind of give you an idea. And they've got another back to the 80s coming up in November 2026 that sells from Tilbury. So I'm going to give you a little bit what I thought about it. I'm not going to go into the ship too much. If you want to, I'm not going to show you any pictures or anything like that, so it's going to be maybe a bit boring and talking about it, but you may pick up a few bits and pieces that may help you out, sway your decision and give you some idea of what to expect when you get on board. If you want to go and see some pictures, obviously there's plenty of other people done tours of the ship. Video goes on for an hour, all that kind of stuff. You can have a look around and all that and get your opinion of the ship, but I'm going to tell you mine as I go along. Right, okay, so let's stick that there. I was going to tell you something else, I forgot what it is now, but okay, yeah, anyway, I went on Ambience. Must get the ship correct. Previously I just said Ambition, but no, it was on Ambience. I went on Ambience a couple of weeks ago now, just over a week ago now. I went for 4 days and we visited Amsterdam and Bruges, two great places. But we'll talk about bits and pieces as we go along. So first of all, who was on this ship back to the 80s? Now, you can dress up. This is something maybe me and the wife should have done. We didn't really think much of it. Now, say dress up, I would say about 15 to 20% of the people on board, a bit of a guess really, dressed up in 80s gear, leg warmers. Women wear these kind of, I don't know, tutu things, fluffy kind of skirt things, I don't know what they are, but they kind of, most of them kind of wore them over a pair of jeans, that kind of stuff, colourful, glowing kind of stuff. Neon kind of stuff, all that, you know, bands and headbands, and some of them coloured their hair, and a couple of people walking around with a couple of blow up ghetto blasters, all that kind of stuff, getting back into the 80s kind of thing. But I suppose you could go in a shop, maybe hire out a uniform. Someone turned up as Mario, the character Mario on there, obviously an 80s game. So yeah, you could, you know, probably go around and maybe pick up something from an eye shop if you wanted to get into the spirit a little bit more. And I say 15 to 20% of the people did, and it kind of brings up the atmosphere, that kind of thing. People think, oh, you know, it's an 80s cruise. It's a shame more people didn't. Like I say, thinking about it, if we went again, I think me and the wife would probably try and dig something out to go with as well, just to kind of like get into it and all that kind of stuff. But on this particular cruise, we had two special guests. One was TOYAH Wilcox, and TOYAH is the first band I ever went and watched. I think it was Emma Smith Apollo with a couple of mates of mine back then. Not that I was really into her back then, I was into Blondie at the time, and still is really, I suppose. Kind of disappeared for a while but come back kind of thing, you know how it is as you get older and whatever, things to do in midlife kind of thing. But yeah, TOYAH was the first person, band or whatever group that I went and see. I think it was Emma Smith Apollo, 79, 78, get it right, 79, 80, 81, somewhere around there anyway. So it was good to see her again, and we'll talk about the acts in a minute as we go along. And the other one was the Fizz, Bucks Fizz. The two girls, Cheryl Baker, and I can't remember the other lady's name, Bucks Fizz, with two other blokes, and they're from two other groups as well. They're kind of musically, somewhere they've been from other groups, bands, etc. So you know, that's pretty good, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, so we're on Ambience. So I just want to kind of give you, our room was 2 single beds in the room, and come to think of it, really we should have just had a double bed. It would have been a lot easier, because I've had a little bit of trouble with my arm recently, and I do like when I lay down, everyone sleeps differently obviously. Some people just, you know, curl up or whatever, but I lie down and I don't know why, I kind of stick my arms out. They're kind of like that. This is how I sleep, like if I'm diving into a pool, that kind of thing. And this has been playing me up, like I say, this arm, and I wanted to try and stretch it out and get in a comfortable position on the bed. Now the bed, they give you a big pillow, and for some reason there's a little pillow on the bed. It's a big pillow, quite fluffy, and a little pillow. It would have been nice to have 2 big pillows, but that's how it is. And the beds are kind of like, say, laid out next to each other. You've got one bed here, one bed there, but in the between there you've got a cabinet, and it's a 8 drawer cabinet. You've got 4 drawers in this kind of cabinet and 4 drawers in this one, and if you can imagine, the bed is this high. The cabinet actually sticks up above the bed on the actual room we went in. I think it was 8,000 or something. So it went above the bed, so, and it kind of comes out from the bed, so your pillars here kind of thing, the cabinet's coming forward. So when I went and put my arms out, I couldn't, because that cabinet was in the way. So that got me nerves a little bit, so that's a bit annoying. But when I looked at people that's been on the other ship, Ambition, it seems that them cabinets, they're in the same position, but they're not so high, they're lower. So it would have been nice and cut. I could have stuck it across, when I'm out of it at the top of the cabinet, that would have been fine. So that was a little bit annoying. So that's the cabin, and in the cabin you get one plug socket, and that plug socket has got one USB plug in it. So just bear that in mind. You want to may take one of these like little plug sockets you can plug in that converts into 4 USBs, something like that. So if you're charging 4 devices up at once, take one of these little adapters you can get. I've got one somewhere. Here it is. Hold on a second. These are not expensive, these are about £15, and you plug your mains in there, and you've got 4 USBs, and they do iPhones and all that stuff. So you may want to take something like that with you, just to help you out in the cabin. You can make your own tea in there, you've got your tea, etc. But other than that, also the beds, just one other thing about the bed, it's a 2-berth cabin we've got, but it can be converted into 4 berths. And you have kind of this fold down bed above your bed, and it kind of sticks over your bed about a third. So you've got 2/3 clear and a third just sticking over. And I remember on the first cruise, the first night I got up, I went bang, top of my head straight onto the. You won't forget it's there after that, but it kind of just sticks over a bit. It would have been nice if it wasn't there, but just something to be wary of. It is above your bed. But go on other videos, people are going to show you all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the room. Other than that, the room's fine. It's great, you know what I mean, nice shower, all that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with the room, just a little bit of aggro with me, my arm and the bed. So that's fine, the bed. I'm just going to go through everything here. Now the ship itself, just very briefly about the ship. It's a nice ship, you know what I mean. These are cheap packages. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. But it's a nice ship. Everything's laid out nicely. There's no problems with the ship whatsoever. The actual ship layout, the ship itself is fine. So don't worry about that. The ship's fine. So we're not that out of the equation. So now we're going to go on to done the drinks cabinet. We'll go on to the entertainment, shall we? We will talk about other things. The entertainment. We had 2 groups here. We had Bucks Fizz, the Fizz, and we had TOYAH. Of course, they was on for 1 night each, and of course they were both absolutely excellent. Absolutely excellent. Crowd loved it. I loved it. It was great. You know what I mean? It really was. So that was fine. That entertainment was great. Now the other couple of nights we've got the in-house entertainment, and they're youngsters, and I think they're still kind of getting into the ropes. They're still getting into it. It was, I would say, average-ish. Yeah, average-ish. I would rate it at. You know what I mean? I'm a bit critical. Some of the older people may have liked it a bit more than me, but I would have said it's average-ish, just about getting to average, shall we say? So it was okay. Filled up the night. Maybe something you're going to go and watch. Don't expect any top class singing or anything like that. It was okay, it was okay. But I think they're still finding their feet. They're all youngsters. They're going to improve, kind of thing. So that's it. That bit of that part of the entertainment was okay-ish, like, you know what I mean. But obviously, the 2 main groups made up for that easy peasy kind of thing. Now they do a drinks package on here. I'm not too sure exactly how much it is. But if one of you gets it, both of you got to get it. So if you went for the top package, I'm guessing it was about 70 quid, was it, something like that, which worked out about 10 drinks. The drinks here, cocktails, are about £7 each. Cocktails, my wife drinks cocktails, I don't. I just have a Coke, maybe have a Scotch, maybe here and there. But they were about £7 the cocktails, which is cheaper than if you went on Cunard or something like that. They're about, I think on there it was about £12, £11. I think it started off up to about 14. So they kind of give you it's a big price difference there, 4 quid. It's like the tea, you have a cup of tea, or we have a chocolate or hot chocolate, and the chocolate on there was £3. We didn't buy a drinks package because you've got to buy too many drinks. You've got to have too many drinks to make it warrant it. You've got to have at least 10 drinks a day, and being alcohol drinks as well, you end up an alcoholic, like, you know what I mean. It just isn't worth it. For us anyway. So we paid as we went along with the drinks, and like I say, a chocolate was £3. If you went on Cunard, it'd be £4.50. So I'd say the drinks are about 40% cheaper, thereabouts, on this particular ship. So that's where it's got a good pull, good attraction there. If you're a drinking person, you want to have a few drinks, they are cheap on there. Done the entertainment, right, drinks, I've done that, just to make sure. Now we're going to go on to the evening food. The food in general, the breakfast was okay. It was okay. It's got your normal breakfast, like eggs, bacon, beans. The beans are a little bit cold, lukewarm, I would say. But other than that, it's got your other bits and pieces, toast and other cereal, that kind of stuff. It was okay, depending what you want. The muffins were, I don't think they had any muffins. They had some chocolate little cake things, but they're very tiny, nothing substantial, no big muffins or anything like that. It's a basic kind of setup, something you probably get in a little, not too big hotel you're going to go to, just going to lay on a little bit of breakfast, that kind of stuff. That's what it's like. It's okay at breakfast. The midday meals are okay as well, they're okay. The evening meals, kind of like this, I'm talking about the buffet bar where you go and help yourself here first of all. That was okay, not a massive amount of selection here. Same as dinner, lunchtime as well, not a massive amount of selection. That was okay. They're nothing fantastic. They're not, and with the evening meal there or in the actual restaurant as well, they're not up to the standard of Cunard. People say the Cunard have gone down. I've been on a recent cruise. They're not up to that standard. They're nowhere near as a standard you'd go to a restaurant when you went outside, They're nowhere near to that, but they're okay. They're kind of okay, Nothing special. A few people we talked to that been on Cunard as well on other ships said there was kind of mediocre. And when you compare it to that, they are mediocre, I suppose, to that extent. But you've got to remember here, this cruise is cheaper than Cunard. Now, I don't know exact amounts. I was trying to work it out. I would have said that they're probably 30% cheaper than Cunard, roughly, the kind of cruise packages, prices, that kind of stuff, kind of basing it on a longer trip, really. But yeah, I think they're about 30% cheaper, something like that. So you get what you pay for. They're not going to lay everything on to the extent that maybe Cunard are, and even Cunard, all these other ships are cutting right back. They're trying to, get to the bare bone here that customers are just about happy, kind of thing, without spending too much money, because the prices, they try and keep them. I'm talking to a few people, obviously if they kept up with inflation and that, these cruises would be super expensive, so they've got to kind of keep them within range that people are going to go on them, and also try and give some entertainment, try and give some drinks, try and give some food, all that kind of stuff. So that's it. So it was okay. The food was okay, but the reason I'm saying this is that some people, I've looked at other reviews and that, and this is another thing with this particular firm, Ambassador, they seem to be a bit all over the place price-wise. So we paid full for this trip because we wanted to go on it. It's local to us, the port 80's, kind of fitted up, ticks all our boxes. And it wasn't expensive, I think, for 4 days, whatever it was, 4 nights, 5 days, it's about £480, I think, something like that. So it works out about £100 a day, something like that each. So it isn't super expensive, anything like that. But if you book late, you can get some good bargains. If you want to hang on to the last minute, some of these cruises, the one we went on previously, went down to half price of what we paid if you left it to the last minute. And it's the same with this one. This year, we didn't need parking because we're literally 5 minutes away. By car kind of thing, so and we didn't need to park because our son takes us there, so it's no problem, but they kind of throw in things depending where you book up. We're talking to a lot of people there. Some people had the free parking, some people had a free drinks package, and a couple of people were lucky, they kind of clashed. They had a free drinks package and a free parking. They're not saying, some people probably got it half price, wouldn't surprise me. So this Ambassador is a bit all over the place with the prices. I think they should tighten that up to keep it as just one, maybe do the full price, then towards the end just do something a bit cheaper kind of thing, whatever, but to kind of all over the place kind of thing. People were kind of hesitant, when am I going to book it, when am I going to get on, that kind of stuff. Didn't really affect us so much, but also I think there would be people thinking, well, hang on, don't hang on, and all that. Then you're going to get people a bit peed off, thinking I paid full price, this person booked it a day later, and they got it half price, all that kind of stuff. So try and keep it consistent, I would say. You don't get Cunard suddenly doing this, that, and throwing bits and pieces in it willy-nilly kind of thing. It's more structured, and that's how I think it should be here, to make it fair to everyone. Now, it's good laid out, all that kind of stuff there. We like doing a quiz. We like quizzing and that. And what I would say is that if you do a quiz, this is a shit where people take the mickey out of each other. It's a bit of a fun kind of a way it's all done in a fun kind of way, relaxed. If you don't like the spotlight being put on you, don't go in for the quiz. Well, go in for the quiz, but don't win it. Don't win the quiz, whatever you do, because not all the quizzes you win a pen and a key ring. A lot of them, they drag you up on the floor and you compete against other people, like dancing, do a dance off, that kind of stuff, a sing off, something like that, to win the prize. So if you're not that kind of person, don't mind putting yourself forward. We spoke to a few people, they do the quiz, but they never win it because they don't want to win it, you know what I mean? They don't want to that embarrassment kind of thing that some people may not like. So, you know, it is different there. So just a little word there, if you are doing the quiz, you've never been on it before, but most of these people have been on this trip tons and tons and tons of times, you know what I mean? We talk to people, this is their 5th, 6th, 7th voyage. So while these other people on the net, like I say, I'm going to go back to them, where they've been getting this, we're doing the reviews and saying the food's excellent, the entertainment's excellent, everything's excellent, it's unbelievable, this ship, you know what I mean? They've got it half price. That's not a fair review in my books, you know what I mean? If I went on Cunard and got that half price, something like that, I went and bought a car and the geezer went down the showroom, he says a 30 grand car there, you can have it at 15 grand. I think this is fantastic, this car, this is unbelievable. I've only paid 15 grand, but if I paid the full 30 and this didn't work properly or that didn't work, I expected it to do this, it doesn't do that, it doesn't do lane assist, I was expecting that, I'll be a little bit disappointed, but half price, I'll be over the moon, you know what I mean? So I think they're a bit unfair, some of the reviews. If you're looking at any reviews, I would say that people have got it cheap, half price, that kind of stuff. I'll take a little bit of a pinch of salt, and you've got a few of them on there as well where they've had a free cabin upgrade, you know, they've gone for a 1-bedroom, you know, little inside cabin kind of thing, and all of a sudden they've got the big suite and they're doing a review and they go, oh, this is great, of course it is, you've got a free suite, like, you know what I mean, suite, should I say, not suite, but free suite. So bear that in mind, you know what I mean, when you look at other people's reviews. I think my review is pretty fair for what I got. Would I go on it again? Yes, I would. Would I do a world trip? No, I wouldn't. Impossible. I wouldn't do a world trip on this. You know, it does world trips, this cruise. I wouldn't do a world trip. They're going to have to pick their ideas up for a world trip. First of all, that bed, like I say, for me in particular, it's got to be, I've got to have that cabinet lowered. I've got to be comfortable in there. I want the extra pillar if I'm going to go. I don't want this little cushion. I don't want a big pillar and a little cushion. I want the 2 pillars if I'm going on a world cruise. And I want the food. You've got to bring that food up. You know what I mean? It's got to be better than what it is. It's got to be more choice. It's got to be better. That kind of stuff. But if I'm just doing a 6-7 day cruise, I'm getting a cheap package. It's fine. It really is. It's fine. What I would say is that the drinks are cheap on here. I think they're missing out. Only my opinion. Not got a clue. I don't know what day it is half the time. But I think they should bring them up. Bring the prices up. Them drinks are maybe a little bit on the too cheap side. Bring them up £1 each. Bring them up £1 each and reinvest that money you get into the restaurant. Reinvest that bit of money, that extra £1 in the restaurant. People are going to be more happier, I think. They're going to have a better drink. They're going to have a better meal. It's going to be more, oh, this is nice, you know what I mean? A bit more like that rather than this is mediocre. And the drinks are still cheap. They're not dear. They're still £3 or £4 cheaper than they are on other cruises. So that's what I would say. Bring the drinks up £1 each and reinvest that money you're getting into the restaurant. Because this is the main downside of the ship, I think, is the restaurant. You know what I mean? They can put up with a mediocre show now and again, as long as you've got another act coming in, that's quite nice. You can put up with that, you've had a nice meal, that kind of stuff. So kind of get them, balance them scales up a bit would be my advice. But would I recommend this trip? A 4-day one, yes, it's not that dear. Try and get into the spirit. Like I say, it's pretty good. And one thing I will say is the quizzes, even though this is supposed to be an 80s trip, another thing they should have done here, I think, as well, because they do 70s trips as well. I'm not too sure what they're going to bring on for the 70s, because most of these bands and people are probably dead now from the 70s. But yeah, from the 80s, obviously, there's still people about. And what I would say also, I didn't mention, is the average age group of the ship. Left it to last, people disappeared by now. But the average age group was a lot lower than what I'm normally going. The other cruise we were on here, they're quite old. They're old people, old fogies, a bit like me, getting on the age. But this cruise here, we had some youngsters, you know what I mean? Because 80s, people into 80s stuff kind of thing, 80s music. So we had quite a few youngsters on here, really. That I weren't expecting, didn't think about it until we got on. I thought, oh yeah, of course, you know what I mean, they like that kind of music. So yeah, it wasn't so many old people. They kind of come down a bit. It was more my kind of age and a bit younger, because I suppose when you're 16, going back to 1985, 15, that's the kind of music you're listening to. So you come forward, these days you're about 55, 60, somewhere around there. So yeah, there was some younger people than that. There was some people probably in their 30s on there as well, quite a few, getting into the spirit, getting dressed up, etc. So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered it all now, this particular ship. If there's anything else I haven't covered, I'll stick it up in the bits underneath. But yeah, like I say, it won't be a cruise for me to go around the world. Would need some improvements here, there and everywhere kind of thing. But for these short trips, like I say, you know, it's well, you know, it's worth doing. And maybe, like I say, next time I'll get dressed up as well and get a bit more into it as well. Oh yeah, that's something I think I mentioned was the quiz. Yeah, I forgot about it. The quiz. I would have thought it'd be all 80s stuff, but it wasn't. They kind of mixed it completely up to 2000. I think if you're having an 80s themed cruise, keep it all 80s. It is all 80s. It's got to stay all 80s. Keep the quizzes 80s. Keep everything 80s. It's an 80s cruise. It's all about the 80s. The quizzes kind of wandered off into the 2000s, that kind of stuff. And there was other bits and pieces on the ship that didn't stick solely to the 80s. If you're doing an 80s theme thing, everything's got to be to do with the 80s, I think. Then it's a complete theme of the ship without wandering off into other decades and all that kind of stuff. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.